you may want to avoid buying from Chinese suppliers. And 72% of all manufacturing is done outside of China. Yet most people think that China is their only option. It's not. And I'm going to show you the 5 best locations to get your supplier from that aren't China. And my name's Travis. I'm a 7-figure e-commerce seller. And make sure to like this video because by the end of this video, you're going to know how to find a supplier in the United States, Mexico, Canada, India, Europe, and just about everywhere else in the world. And we're going to go over the pros and the cons of working with suppliers in all these countries. And let's start with the pros of working with China, because China is the leading manufacturing country in the world, accounting for 28% of all manufacturing done. And last year, China exported around $600 billion worth of merchandise into the United States. And they're able to do this because the cost of labor in China is so much cheaper than in other countries, which means the cost of the products that you would be buying is also gonna be lower. But one of the first cons of buying products that are made in China is you are contributing to some unfair labor laws. And that's how they're able to keep their labor prices so low. There can also sometimes be huge language barriers between you and your manufacturer. Now, this is not always the case. I've had a lot of good experiences of working with manufacturers overseas, but keep in mind, sometimes there is a problem. You tell them what you want and they give you something slightly different. There's also cultural differences. For instance, every year around February, they take a month off for Chinese New Year's. And this has driven me and a lot of Americans crazy in the past because during that entire month, China is completely closed down. There's also high import duties. When you ship your product from China into the United States, you're gonna have to pay an extra 25% on top of whatever your cost of goods already is. So even though China seems like it's cheap, once you start adding up things like shipping and duties, the cost of products made in China may not always be cheaper than something made in the United States. This also means that you're gonna have longer lead times. When you buy a product that's made in China, it can take around 6 weeks or more to ship it from the manufacturer into the Amazon warehouse, which means if you see on Amazon that you're running out of stock, you may not even have time to reorder with a Chinese manufacturer because the lead times and the shipping times are so long. There's also an issue of communicating in different time zones. When we're awake, they're asleep, and when they're awake, we're asleep. So everything ends up taking longer because you'll send a message and they'll answer on the next day. You'll send a response and then they won't answer again until the day after that. And before you know it, a ton of time will have passed by. There's also a higher lack of quality control, and you can hire people to go over and make sure and inspect your products and do detailed reports, but still when you get your shipment, there is a chance that there's going to be issues. And the last big con of working with Chinese suppliers is there is IP security issues, meaning there is a chance that your manufacturer in China will copy your product, rip it off, and sell that exact same product on Amazon or on Shopify. Now, there are ways to avoid this. You can have them sign what's called an NNN, and NDAs in China do not work, but this NNN agreement does carry some weight. The other thing you could do is actually file for a patent in China. This costs around $1,000, and manufacturers in China care more about that than they do if you file a patent in the United States. But if you want to be extra careful, you can file a provisional patent in the United States as well. This only costs $75 and it gives you a year before you need to sign up for a full patent. And now let's share the top 5 countries to get your product manufactured in, as well as the pros and cons for each one. And I'm going to show you how to find a supplier in each one of these, because for each country, it's a little bit different. There's a trick that you can use for each country to find a manufacturer. And before we go to the first one, warning, I'm not saying to never buy from China. I'm just saying that there are other and sometimes better options to find suppliers in other countries. And I want you to explore these other countries before you just default to purchasing from China. And the first country we're going to talk about makes up 18% of all the manufacturing in the world. And this industry accounts for a revenue of $8 trillion. And it's the second most popular country to do manufacturing in, and that is the United States. And manufacturing in the United States is actually growing every single year. And there are a ton of pros to getting your product manufactured in the United States. You're going to have higher quality control, no language barriers, faster shipping times. The cost of shipping is also going to be less. Not to mention, you're going to be able to save money on import duties and tariffs. You're also going to have greater intellectual property protection. The chance of a US manufacturer ripping you off is way less than a Chinese manufacturer. And on top of all this, you're going to be able to put the stamp on your product that says made in the USA, which could contribute to more sales. But before I show you how to find a US based manufacturer, you do need to know there are some cons with using a manufacturer in the United States. The first and the biggest one is there is going to be higher costs. Some of the products that I've wanted to produce in the United States would have cost 5 times as much money than having them manufactured in China. There's also limited production capabilities in the United States. There are a lot of things that Chinese manufacturers just do better than US manufacturers. We've lost a lot of our manufacturing capabilities, and China has actually invested in some top quality machines. But keep in mind, not everything that's made in China is cheaper. There are some products that are actually cheaper to make in the good old United States. And that's because by the time you factor in the shipping fees, the duty and tariff fees, and all the other costs that come with buying products in China, it is sometimes cheaper to buy a product that's made in the USA. And there are 3 different ways that you can find suppliers or manufacturers in the United States. And the first is Reference USA, which is now called Data Axle. And this website is 100% free. It's also the best and most comprehensive database of US suppliers in the world. You can actually use it to locate any business in the world and find out a ton of information about them. However, the cons for Data Axle is because there's so much information on this website, you're gonna have to sort through a lot of junk to find the right supplier for you. Another huge con is Reference USA/Data Axle is only available in your local library. So if you want to access this website, you actually have to get a library card, walk into a library, and go onto the website from a computer at your library. And when you're doing searches on this website, it will sometimes include retail stores, and you're going to want to filter those out because you don't want to buy your products from a retail store and then try to resell it. You won't make a lot of money. So to get access to this website, 1, call your local library and ask if they have access. Step 2, get your library card. And step 3 is go to a computer at your library and type in your library card number. And if that sounds complicated, don't worry. The second resource I have for you is a much easier way to find suppliers here in the United States. But if you want a full tutorial about Data Axle, hit the like button, and once this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll do a dedicated tutorial just for that. But in the meantime, if you're looking for a supplier in the United States, you can use thomasnet.com. And thomasnet.com has over 950,000 active users and over 500,000 company profiles. And another pro with Thomasnet is they only include real suppliers. They don't include any retail stores, which means that you're not going to have to do as much sifting through the data. In fact, on Thomasnet, suppliers are very specifically categorized based on what kind of products they sell. And this is an excellent resource if you're looking to create your own product. And this is what I recommend you do: create your own passion product. This is what I've done and a lot of my students have done. Like Brent, who's a full-time first responder helicopter pilot, has a family of 4, and still was able to make almost $2 million in his first 2 years selling this unique product on Amazon. And if you want to learn how we did that, I have a free 5-hour step-by-step course I'll give to you at the end of this video. But the last option I recommend if you're looking for a supplier in the United States is Makers Row. And this is specifically helpful if you're looking to create a more unique product. But keep in mind, Makers Row is a lot smaller than Thomasnet. They only have around 10,000 profiles, and it has a monthly membership cost. But still, if you're having a tough time finding a supplier, you may want to check out Makers Row. Another popular country to find a supplier in, making up over 1.5% of the entire world's manufacturing, and it just happens to be our neighbor to the south, is Mexico. And it's in 10th place in the world for manufacturing capabilities. But despite being in 10th place, Mexico may still be a great option for you to find a supplier in. And that's because Mexico is so close to the United States that shipping is going to be a lot faster and a lot cheaper. Duties and taxes from Mexico in the United States are also a lot less. And if you're looking for a manufacturer in Mexico, you have 3 different options. The first is called Seasons Way, the second is called Coppel, and the third is called Mercado Libre. You can also look at Yeah Trade, which is an industry-wide platform that covers all of Latin America, and it's a great B2B platform, meaning that your business can connect with another business. Another up-and-coming country you may want to look at to find suppliers, making up over 3% of the total manufactured products in the world, is India. And if you're looking to find a manufacturer in India, I recommend going to IndiaMart. It's India's largest business-to-business marketplace, and it's a great place to find suppliers. They have over 7.4 million suppliers listed on their website, and they offer over 90 million different products. Another benefit of IndiaMart is they do have a payment protection program, meaning if you're a little bit nervous about sending a payment to a manufacturer over in India, you have nothing to worry about because they have you protected. When you send that money, if for any reason the manufacturer doesn't give you the goods he promised, they will refund your money. However, there is one big con, and that is poor customer service and slow delivery, so be careful. You can also check out the India Sourcing Network or go to India in person and check out the India Handicrafts and Gifts Fair. It's a twice-a-year trade show that runs for about 5 days, and it's a great way to connect with suppliers. The next option for finding a supplier makes up over 13% of the total manufacturing happening in the world, and that is Europe. And Europe is a great place to get certain types of products manufactured. Also, if you happen to live in Europe, you may want to find a supplier that's closer to home. And to find a supplier in Europe, you can go to Europages or eSources. I'd recommend checking out Europages first because it's the most comprehensive database of suppliers in Europe. And although I don't recommend it, one country that I get asked about finding suppliers in a lot is Canada. And if you live in Canada, this might be a good option, but if you don't live in Canada, I don't really recommend it because you're gonna have to pay higher prices and you're gonna run into other issues of getting your products across the border and things like that. And the fifth option for finding a supplier for your product, and this is something I do recommend looking at, is the entire rest of the world, all the different countries we didn't talk about here. And one of the best ways to find suppliers all over the world is using Alibaba.com. And yes, Alibaba.com is a Chinese company and most of their suppliers are based in China, but they do have suppliers from all over the world. And for the most part, if you're looking for an affordable supplier, this is probably the first website you should go to. But finding a supplier is just the first step to making money online. And if you want to find out how to actually make money online step by step, I have this free 5-hour course that teaches you how to create your own unique product and sell it on Amazon. And this is what I've done and a lot of my students have done. So click on that video. I'll see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.